people coming in at the same time. I'm just gonna ask them to get in. All right. So group is full. So thank you all for being here. We're a good group for the first time. It's always nice. First of all, let me introduce myself. I'm Serge-Éric Blais. I'm from Canada, as you can see by the accent. And I'm the owner and the guy behind Turtlebrace, this new brace that we're very glad that have Rafiza and her team distributing and presenting to you guys up in Singapore and all the other countries. So to give you a bit of background on myself and then to give you a background on the product, my background is I have a degree in industrial design from the Université de Montréal here in Montreal. And my forte was into ergonomics. And in those days, I was doing a lot of sports. I was in good shape, not just aerodynamic, but in those days, I was really in good shape. And for me, ergonomics was a big thing. There was this new course that was given. It was called Orthotic and Prosthetics, and I loved it a lot. So I decided to specialize my industrial design into orthotic and prosthetics. It seems a good fit with ergonomics. And I just fell in love with medical. So I pushed through and I was lucky enough to be taken under the wing of an orthopedic surgeon who basically showed me a lot of the ropes, and I became a member of American Society of Sports Medicine. And I became a clinician specialized into R&D in sports medicine and trauma. So to be more efficient with my patient, I created Turtlebrace, and then I'll show it to you in a second. And basically, the problem I felt was like most of the time when we have a protocol in rehab, everything seems to be stuck when it came to the brace. The brace was the weakest link of the rehab, and we're stuck with that rigidity of the product and not being able to make the product do what we need to do to make our patient better. So I created Turtlebrace, and it just became viral by itself. And the funny thing is, I basically I've shown the product was the beginning was it was for a kid, and the product became viral. And doctor, I always remember that on November 2017 or 16, the doctor from Paris, from Poitiers in France, called me up and said, "Look, I'm Dr. Letellier. I'm using your product. Can you distribute it in France?" I was like, "What?" I was like, I had no idea if I was up in France up at this point. I was just selling it to a few guys in Montreal. So we launched the product in June 2017 in Saint-Malo, and since then the product just became viral all across the globe. So we're happy to say at this point we're already on 4 continents. We're being sold or present in over 26, almost 30 countries at this point, and all that inside of 5 years. And 90% of it is all due to word of mouth products. So PTs and physicians and clinicians like yours, like you, just love the product and talk about it to another client or another patient or another physician, and just like that, product just became viral. So what is a Turtlebrace? So that's the first thing. So as you can see behind me, we have a wide range of product. And a Turtlebrace is basically a low temp plastic, high memory plastic that is fused in between 2 sheets of fabric. Now that plastic is full of holes, and I have a close-up camera to be able to see through the close-up camera more of the holes and more of how it works and how it can really breathe through and have water seeps through. So you can go in the water with this. Now, the plastic and the fabric, the good point about those is one compensates for the weakness of the other. For example, when you heat up a plastic, it has a tendency to expand, as if you heat up a material or a fabric, it has a tendency to shrink. So because the plastic has a high memory, when it's hot, when you pull on it, you can really stretch it, and I'll show it to you in a second. But when you stretch it, the product by itself will just have a tendency to shrink back on the patient. So it's kind of a apply and forget kind of situation. You're just going to stretch it, apply it, and just by itself is going to close down your patient and have the proper snug fit without having compression around the body. Now, like I said prior, the other thing is when we're doing rehab protocols, for example, just for a second, gonna have someone knitting inside. When you have a protocol and you come to the brace and just locks you, it's very frustrating. You want to have a brace that is so flexible that you can do anything you want with it. You can create with it. And this is why every time I do this training or presentation, I always say to all the physician clinicians, I'm not here to sell you Turtlebrace. I'm here to show you a tool that's going to help you become the architect of your own protocol and be creative. And that's what we're looking for. We're really looking for you guys to have fun playing with this and being really creative as much as possible. That's what we're looking to do. So again, in our product, we have, as you can see, and you probably heard that first, we have the ankle brace, and we go from adult all the way to the babies. Like we're the only one in the world who do newborns and up. So that's very, very interesting. So if you have smaller kids, you can actually fit them properly. So we do the ankles, we do the wrists that we have here. Same thing, go from pediatrics all the way to adults. And we have add-ons to put on the wrist. So if you want to do a wrist with no fingers, you can do it. But if you want to do a wrist with either a thumb or you want to do fingers, I'm going to show you that later on, you can just add the add-on and fuse it to the brace. So when we're doing a wrist brace, most of the problem that we face is being able to have the neutral part of the wrist. But when you're playing with a finger at the same time, then you're losing one and the other. So it's really frustrating, but having a situation when you build something gradually and you can remold it gradually, that's always a great thing. So the other good thing other products that you can see in the back of me, we have the buddy jacket. Now, if you ever did either for scoliosis or for any kind of immobilization of the torso, this can help you do a full buddy jacket inside of 30 minutes. So you don't have to wait weeks and days for it. You can easily do it. You can remold it. You can reshape it. You can, even like we're trying to do, we're coming up with a new approach for scoliosis, where instead of having a brace that's really forcing on the ribs, trying to force the vertebrae to get back into shape, we're basically bringing exercises to stretch soft tissues around the torso, and remolding the brace every week. We can just basically replace everybody straight without having to force on a rib and things like that. So it's a really new approach. You can bring things like that. Now, the other good convenience about this product is you can remold it, and you can remold it often. Now, most people are asking me, how often? Most of the time, you can hear 5, 10 times. Our product can be remolded over 250 times. So if after 250 times you haven't done it right, change jobs. It's not your file. But that means we have a lot of flexibility. You can really follow your patient through. That means your patient, if you have a pediatric, he can grow and will still have the brace being able to follow through his growth. So it's always a big thing. Also, we designed the product to have sizes that really overlap one another. So that way, if you're taking a size, let's say you have a kid that's in between a medium and a large, go for the medium. They're really made to go really over one another. So we're not stuck like we have to before, when large maybe a bit too big, when medium's a bit too tight, but we have to go in between. It's not really what we want. Everybody's not happy. So with this, you can really have that overlap, and you can really make sure that your patient is fitted properly. That's another thing. It's less irritating for us. Also, like I said prior, because the product is an a self-molding system or apply and forget kind of approach, that means you can have more time concentrating on the positioning of your patient. And when you hold a position into place, one thing you're going to gain is having that one-on-one time with your patient. That's one thing you always miss. And how many times have you heard one of your patient or probably family members coming back home and they had a cast, for example, and they said, what happens? I broke my wrist. Okay, so what's that? It's a cast. Okay, what next? I don't know. How long do you have to wear it? I don't know. I don't have to go back next week for a follow-up, but after that, I don't know. So, what, you saw the surgeon? Yes. Didn't you ask a question? He was too busy doing the cast. So you have this frustration of the patient, and now because you can basically have something that gives you all the time in the world to exchange with that patient. That 3-4 minutes for the time for the product to cool down, you can give them pointers. You can give them approach or protocol, what to do, what not to do, answer questions. So we're bringing back the patient back into the equation. We're making them part of the team, part of how it's going to get better. It's because you, the patient, understand what you have to do, how it's going to make you make it different to help you. That's basically one big thing. Also, products are made to be patient compliant. So the fact that we have tons of holes in the plastic, that means you can take a shower with your brace. You can go to the pool, you can go to the beach, it will breathe. And that's the other thing. Why do patients remove braces when they know it's good for them? And the first reason that always comes forward from all the patients is, I was uncomfortable. As simple as that. I was too uncomfortable. So if you make the brace comfortable, if you make the patient feel comfortable, they're going to have a tendency to wear the brace more often. Because you took time to explain what's going to happen, you're going to take more time wearing the brace. So all those things revolves on the fact that what are the problems that we face with our patient is they didn't know, they were not comfortable. And they prefer to just go back to be normal than to be stuck with a brace. Last thing, but not the least, but for pediatrics, even for kids, one other thing is, why should they look more handicapped than already are? There are kids, after all, in their heads, like everybody. So having something that's thinner, something that you can wear a regular shoe, that you can dress normally over, something that makes them feel normal, and it's also kind of cool, will bring the patient to be closer to their peer. The kids will be interested in what's going to what is he wearing. And just hearing someone saying, look, if I break my ankle, I want to have this, because even though you're in a wheelchair and you're wearing it, it looks so cool. I prefer to have that in a big cast. And then you bring those patients back into the population. They have something to show that they're happy and they're it makes them feel great about. So that's one more thing that we have. So let's go with show you how stretchy our product is. So I'm going to be off focus for a second. I'm going to go get one of the Turtlebrace I got in my counter oven, show you how stretchy it is, and then we'll talk about how heating them. So, all right. So, like you saw, when it's cold, it's pretty rigid, okay? But when it's heated, and we don't mean high heat, we mean about 65 degrees Celsius at the core. So it's about 140 Fahrenheit. I don't know if you're familiar with more Celsius or Fahrenheit, but we're talking low temp. So if the core is at 65, even though the exterior gets back to about, I would say 50 degrees Celsius, that's about a temperature of a hot bath, for example. So it's not going to burn your patient. It still has a lot of flexibility. And when, like I said, when it's heated, it becomes really hyper stretchy. Okay, really, really, really stretchy. So that's another good point. And like this piece has been already molded about 60 times, and we kept some pieces in our oven for a week, trying to see if we can keep it hot all day. Yes, you can. So that's another big thing. You can just keep a few ready when you have a patient coming in, you take one size out, fit it to the patient, and voila, so you save all your time. So, all right, cool. It's stretchy, it's hot, but how do we heat this thing? That's the other question. Well, there's two ways. Actually, three ways. You can use, say, water bath, either like hydrocolators, that you bring the temperature for about, I would say, 90 degrees Celsius, even 80 degrees Celsius. It's great. So the heat transfer is perfect. Water goes fast. So water is the fastest way to heat it up, and it's the fastest way to cool it down, because when water evaporates, it just cools down the plastic very well. Or you can use dry heat. That's the mean I prefer. It's always more comfortable with the patient also, but it's really a matter of what you want to use and what you have on hand. In my case, when I'm doing presentation, I have, and you don't see it, it's off screen, but I have a real small counter oven that you find in any corner store. Basically, it's just simple little thing. And don't get those high-end, really sophisticated system. Basic in cell with a fan in it, that's enough. That's what you need. And just plug it in and just wait for about, I would say, 5 to 10 minutes, all depending of the efficiency of your oven, the thickness of your plastic, because if you have the ankles a bit thicker, it would take a bit more time to heat through. And simple as that. Or if you have a patient coming in, let's say at 1 o'clock in the afternoon, you go for lunch at noon, you put a few in the oven at noon when you go for lunch, and when your patient comes in at 1, you make sure everything's going to be ready to use in a minute. Or you can use our convenient heating bag. Now, it looks like a gym bag. It's cool because you can collapse it. When you go, if you're moving from one center to the other, or from one floor to the other, or if you're going house to house, it looks better to walk around with a gym bag than with a pack of tools. So it's always more convenient. And the heating system for this is really, really high tech. And I'm sure you can easily find one. So it's a regular air dryer. So anywhere in the world, you can find one, probably have one at home. So why do we use a hair dryer? Because it's simple. Everybody has one. And if it breaks, it's easy to get a new one. And I know people in France, they're buying those end of the line, more professional air dryer. They work really, really nice. They're really, really efficient. Personally, I got mine at, you probably don't know those, what we call a Walmart here. So like a small convenience store, and I bought it in sale, and I paid Canadian about $40. So, and it works. So, and I kept it running for hours with no problems. It's really a matter of how much you want to spend and what you have on hand, as simple as that. The bag has been designed, and we have a video for that. I think Rafisa can pass it along. It's basically a bag with 2 chambers. One of it, when you put the Turtlebrace in, you have the nozzle of the air dryer on one side pushing air in. At the other end of that chamber, you have another window. The air goes out and goes into the outer chamber, basically the shell of the gym bag, then being re-aspirated by the hair dryer and be pushed back inside. So it's a really simple system. It's really efficient. In this case, what we're trying to do is we're trying to use thermodynamics. So air is insulation, forcing air to break that insulation, transfer more energy into the plastics, and the heating bag is more efficiency than just sometimes a regular counter oven. But counter oven is less noisy than the bag. So it's really a matter of what you want to use on that matter. Any question at this point? Is there anybody has any question? Fine. There you go.
Sorry, can you show the oven that you're using there?
Yeah, I'm gonna show you, but I didn't clean up my office, so it's gonna be pretty messy. But yeah, I'm gonna show it to you. Just wait for a second. I'm gonna change camera for a second. Where's my camera? There it is. Well, I was on vacation until today, so I didn't have time to just clean up. That's it. That's a simple little oven like that. We good?
Yep, thank you.
No problem. Okay, just reset up my camera. Yeah, okay. All right, since we're here, let me show you how easy it is to mold a turtle brace. So, like I said, when you seat up, it's pretty flimsy, and you can really stretch it. And when you drop it, see it just close by itself. It just gets back to original shape. Let me show it again. Stretch, drop, and see it just close down to its shape. So it's really simple to mold. And how fast is it to mold a wrist brace? Now, I'm a trained professional. Don't do this alone at home, but I do 1, 2, 3, and 4. And that's it. I've molded my turtle brace. I don't know if you can see it well, but my Apple Watch is already molded inside the brace. I haven't touched it. And like I said before, you can just, at this point, align your patient and keep it in shape. So the brace by itself will just mold all around. And because we all know how to position our patient, we don't even have to look. We know basically how we are. At this point, you just hold your patient and wait for it to set. And it'll take, like I said, about 3 minutes to get about 80% of rigidity. 3 to 5, all depending on your patient, all depending on how hot it is outside, things like that. But about 3 to 5 minutes to get really rigid. At this point, even though you're not 100%, you can basically, it's rigid enough so you can basically remove your hand or remove the brace and let it cool down in your office. But the other 20% will take a bit more time because the curve to cool down goes fast and then takes a plateau before being 100%. So it takes about 20 minutes to get a fully 100% rigidity. But like I said, sometimes it lasts 8 minutes. It's about 5% of rigidity we're gaining because we're so close. We're 65 degrees Celsius at the core, but the body is about 40 degrees Celsius. So still, the difference between the two is not that much. So that's why it takes a bit more time to cool down. So like I said, even at this point, I'm about, I would say, 40% of rigidity. So it goes pretty fast to remold on the patient. Now, the other thing is, like I said, we have little add-ons like this. Okay, that's for the thumb, and that's for the finger. You're gonna notice that one side is totally plastic bare. So when you heat it up, that plastic becomes a bit tacky, and you can basically stick it to your product. It would just fuse directly, and you can mold it around your thumb or fingers. So if you're doing the thumb, and I'll show it to you in a second, you can how to wrap it around your thumb and close it. And they're universal sizes. So when if you have too much, you take a pair of scissors and just cut it through. When it's hot, cuts really nicely. Yeah, it's a bit like cutting, I would say, putty. It's really fast and easy to cut. If you're doing the fingers, the design is made to either go in between the fingers to do a radial fracture, or you have a boxer fracture. You can fuse it at the back if you want a cock up splint. We can close it inside the hand to have hand support. And the back of that piece is Velcro receptive. So you can anywhere you cut it, anywhere you put a Velcro, it's going to stick. So again, you don't have to worry about making buckles, where to put my Velcro. Everything is set. It's made to be for you to work less on the brace, more on your patient. So that's simple as that. And when it's fused, okay, it's really it's fixed. It's fused to the plastic, so there's no way you can remove it. If you're using water, then fusion won't be as good. If you want to do add-ons to fuse, we highly recommend that you use dry heat to have a better fusion in the material. So if you want to try it with water, and the good point about it is you can probably remove it, so you can have a removable piece, and you can heat the plastic with a heat gun and make sure this is fully dry. And having this heated with a heat gun, it will just fuse directly to the plastic. That's one other way. Another good thing about this, if you're doing fingers, for example, that's one of my demo for the fingers. You can just reheat that piece by dipping it in water or using your air dryer to just make this part pliable so you can remold it to your patient. And you won't have to ever play with the wrist. So that's another way to be more efficient and gradually bring spastic cases to be straight again. So that's one other thing we can do. All right, you're gonna switch camera for a second. And check this. There we go. All right, how to remove a turtle brace for the wrist. Okay, it's very, very, very easy. Just wait for a second. Just I got one late person coming in. All right, so how to remove a turtle brace? Simple as 1, 2, 3, 4. You remove, you make sure that all your velcros are open up. It's like the hood of a car. You just slide your finger at one end and pull on it. Simple as that. So patient who have strokes, patient who have less mobility, it's easier for them to just place it back. Just we're going to place it, make sure the velcros are all open, place it, and just slap it down. And to remove it, about the same thing. So it's fast, it's easy, it's convenient. So all those little things that makes your patient experience a lot more interesting to that. All right, before I switch to the ankle, any other questions? No. Okay. Grab a glass of one bit of water. Okay. So I'm going to switch camera again, and I'm going to show you how to basically, if you're doing serial casting or doing the ankle, how efficient it is, how rapid it is to do it. Just before I go for this, I know we had a few latecomers in the presentation. This presentation is being recorded, so I'm sorry we cannot stop that. But also, if you have other questions, if we missed a part and you want me to come back at the end, I know Rafiza is going to do a part, and after her, we can just go back to what you missed. So the people who've seen the full presentation can actually go have dinner, and the rest of us, I can stay all day long, no problem. I can answer all your questions. So again, like I said, molding an ankle is pretty easy and pretty fast. So if you ever did a cast, it takes about, I would say, 20 minutes to do a cast. As with this, it'll take about from beginning to end between 10, 15 minutes. Yeah, 10, 15 minutes at the top for an ankle. As doing a cast for an ankle takes a good 20 minutes to start with. So, and removing it, it's also a big thing. If you have kids, removing a cast on a kid, it's always a lot of yell and cries because it's scary. With this, just unzip it, remove it, takes 30 seconds. So you're going to save a lot of time on that. And as you know, most of the time you're doing a cast and you look at the end product and go, not exactly what I wanted, but what are you gonna say? You won't say anything to the patient, and you're just gonna cross your finger, hope everything works fine. Anyway, it's gonna come back for control, and we're gonna redo a better job next time. With this, if you're not happy, because you already saved time to start with, you can just pop it back in the oven and remold it. So it's way faster. And like I said, if you have one already heated, instead of taking 15 minutes, will take you about 5 to 10 minutes, no more than 5 minutes about to just have to make a turtle brace. So you can gain a lot of time on that. So that means you have more time for rehab, more time for exercises, more time for a lot of stuff. And like I said, you're not happy, remold it and start it over again. It's as simple as that. The first few times, maybe you won't be totally happy with how you do it. It's normal. It's like anything, you have to take to understand how to play with it. But it is very intuitive, so don't worry. You'll know exactly what to do, and you don't have to worry about the brace. You just have to worry about your patient position. So let me show you how we mold this and how easy it is to do a Turtlebrace ankle. Sorry. Okay, new camera. All right, cool. So that's the Turtlebrace ankle. All right. So really easy. It's really stretchy. So if you want to have a brace that's longer, you can really stretch the bottom all the way as long as you want. Personally, I love my brace to be at the apex of the met joint. So I don't like to be too long. Anyway, you have a full contact brace, so you have a lot of stability to the patient because it's a full contact system. So it's very, very solid. And if the brace is, you want it longer at the back, you can hold it. If it's too long, you can basically roll it like this to give you a bit of a lip to your patient. So feel free to do whatever you want. The brace will just follow through, as simple as that. Now, when you mold turtle brace, what is really important is that the front part of the foot, that can really stretch it as much as possible before closing the zipper. The reason is here, we don't want to put too much tension right next to the box. Sometimes when there's too much tension, that piece of tendency to just break. So you really want to pull it. So when you close it, there's no tension on it. Anyway, as you can see, even though if I stretch it a lot, the brace just closed down by itself on the patient. So don't worry about that. When you get to the heel, you get your fingers really at the bottom of the heel and you pull on it up to the hindfoot. Give yourself as much plastic as possible before pulling the zipper. Again, you don't want to have too much tension at the hindfoot, so the zipper doesn't have a tendency to burst. So it's really important you go and get as much plastic from the back and forward, and your brace will just close down on itself. After that, same idea, just pull a bit on it and pull the zipper up, and that's it. As simple as that. So a lot of people will say, yeah, well, do we put padding on the brace? Well, personally, I didn't, but it's really depending of what kind of patient you have, how you feel. Sometimes at the apex of the malleoli, what I would use is a really thin foam, about, I would say 3 mil, 1/8 thickness foam, about the size of a silver dollar. So about, I would say 2.5 centimeters in diameter, about 1 inch diameter, just to cover the malleoli. After you mold it, you can just remove the padding. It's just there to give a bit of space so the bone does not catch the plastic, as simple as that. If you have other bony apex, you can do the same, put a bit of foam, that will just create a bit of space. When you remove the brace, you just remove it, as simple as that. At the hindfoot here, around that section, I love to put a piece of foam about the width or a bit more than the width of the zipper to give myself a bit more space when I'm passing the cursor. So it doesn't catch the skin, it gives you a bit more space. It's easier to pass on. So that's one other thing you can do to give you a bit more space. It gets more comfortable on this. And if you have a patient that's a bit spastic, even though the rest of the plastic will just hold the foot properly, they won't press to develop to the zipper. So it's going to be a lot more comfortable for them also. So that's a few ways to just put padding. Go put padding elsewhere. Well, it's up to you guys. It's like I said, this is what I do, but it's really a tool. Play with it, use it the way you feel it's better for your approach. You have different approaches, what you feel better for your patient. That's what we're looking for, to be the more efficient as possible to the patient when we're doing a molding. That's exactly what you're looking for. So, all right. So you know how to stretch, you know how to zip. Now let me show you what I do when I do serial casting. Okay. So personally, and then again, like I said, there's different ways of doing it. But personally, one approach I love to do is having my patient prone on the table, foot in the air. And that way I can have a good line of sight. And I would use my stitching in the back and the midfoot to ensure that I have proper alignment. Just gives you a good idea of the alignment of your foot. So I would just place my patient that way, and I would use the toes to de-rotate and to place my patient in proper position and to press for the angle. I would use really the fleshy part of my palm or my forearm to press in the arch and to bring the foot down, or press higher up to just press and bring the foot down. So again, it's really comfortable because you can just lean on the patient. Because you're using soft tissues in a wide part, you won't have pressure points that are really located, and you're pressing on softer tissues like the arch. It's a good place to press on it and still have the control over my forefoot. And you're going to feel that the plastic is so thin, it's so malleable. You can have a good idea, a good sense of where your bony structure are, and removing it and having the plastic just pop back into place. So it's easy to basically know exactly where you are and hold the patient into position. What I do in that position is I take the parents aside with me when I'm doing it and explain to them how to stretch your patient, how to stretch your kid. And I ask the patient to remove the brace every day and do a stretching exercise for about 5 minutes per ankle. So that stretching exercise, that little simple step, basically cut in half the time of rehab because you're really proactive in your approach. So that's my protocol. But like I said, feel free to do whatever you want. But because you can remove it, you can be a lot more active, a lot more proactive in the readaptation of your patient. Sorry for a second. We're sorry about that. All right, so that's one way of doing it, of molding it. Now, I'm gonna switch camera again, show you another position that I do. And here we go. Camera. All right, some patients don't like to be flat on a table. So what do? You have your patient in front of you. Again, I would use the zipper as my alignment. It gives you an idea where you are. You can feel the stitch at the back also. That will give you by sense of touch if you're pretty much aligned. Use my toes to de-rotate my patient, and I would just bring the foot to under a cushion in my belly and bring my other hand on the other side, or having a colleague of yours press on the knee directly to the body. That will give you the stretching that you need, and you have enough soft tissues that you won't have a pressure point, and you still can control with your toes the forefoot that you have the rotation that you need to do. So that's one other way of doing it. So some patients they don't like the feeling of it about too round in the front. So what you can do is you can even use a just a piece of board that you can press on it to just have the flat done under the foot. So that's other ways. If you have serial casting, you want to do it. That's the methods that I've used, and I really rotate with my toes instead of bringing the forefoot, having my full hand on the foot, trying to de-rotating. I would just use this part that way. If you have cases that you don't need to be forced into position, just need the immobilization in either a, let's say, Achilles tendon, you're going to do the vertical of 30 degrees and gradually bring back the foot down. So what I do is I would use a wedge about the ankle of that I need, put it on the floor, put my patient on the chair, zip the turtle brace on, bring the foot down on that wedge on the floor, and just wait for it. Just put my foot in front of the toe so the foot does not slide forward, and have a good chat with your patient. Don't have to do anything, just have to wait for it to set. That's simple. If you have ankle issues like either a fracture of distal end of your knee, of the tibia, the fibula, even I would say a low mid shaft can be also all depending on the length of your leg, but you can probably do a low mid shaft immobilization with this also. It's all dependent on your surgeon. How do you feel? But most of the time, people will have ankle sprain. Most fracture appear to be really distal to the fibula or the tibia. So that is a great system to hold it. If you have elderly patient, that's amazing. First of all, it's really, really tight. It's really thin also. We're talking about 3 mil of thickness, about 1/8. So that means you can fit in most regular shoes. So that's another big thing. And also because it breathes a lot more comfortable for them, and it's really, really light. If you have those older ladies, something that's really heavy will really infringe them in their activities. So with this, and have something that's lighter, they can still move around. It's a wear bear brace, so it can easily walk on it. If you have a patient that's hyperactive, let's say you have an autistic kid that instead of running like this in the room, has a tendency to run like this in the room, we have the reinforced system. I'll show you maybe just before the end. We have an extra piece of plastic around this part of the ankle brace, and that is to prevent the brace from buckling, because you have something that's really more active. It's not won't break, but sometimes the pressure that you have will make the plastic buckle at the hind foot. So we just put a piece of plastic more, but that piece of plastic takes more time to heat up and takes more time to cool down. So I prefer to go for regular most of the time. I feel pretty comfortable with the strength. That's what's been done a lot in the States, in Europe, in Australia. So it's really how you feel. But in Quebec, for other reasons, they prefer to go for reinforced ones. Takes a lot more time, but that's what they like. So that's, again, it's a tool. Use it the way you feel more comfortable to be the architect. And am I missing something? Ankle, I did that. Oh yeah, one question is always popping up. And we have a kid, let's say, that is a toe walker, and he has a few degrees and does not, when he walks, the heel does not touch down on the ground. What do I do? In those cases, what I suggest is either buy yourself a post, or a cast sandal, and you do posting inside that sandal. And either you do it yourself or you have orthopedic shops around. You can have them to do the wedge and basically grind the wedge down as you gain degrees on your kid. So that's one way of doing it, easy to do it. And you'll still have your kid having the heel touching down the ground when they walk. Can we use a Turtlebrace as an AFO? Well, a lot of people starting to use it as an AFO with great results. What I'm saying is that the design of the product has been designed as a rehab brace. It's not there to have the same longevity as a regular AFO. We're talking about 12 to 16 weeks of use for a day walking person. It's not because the plastic is not strong enough. It's the material that we use to fuse on the plastic. It's very, very soft. It's a kind of material that we find on jerseys. So resistance to friction and abrasion is not that good. So the material will just wear out. So that's one of the problems you're going to face. If you're using it as a night split, you're good for years. Don't worry about that. A lot of cases that I did on the swing cases, we started to use this as a day and night brace until they get their full degrees, and then we just kept it afterward as a night splint until we didn't need it anymore, or we can remold it further down the lane if the spasticity or the tightness of the calf starts to show back. So again, that can be used. But as an AFO, what we heard is people love the fact they feel really stable on their ankle. I know a lady is using it to go to the pool and the beach because she wanted something that goes in the water and kept stability. I got a construction worker who was using it. He's buying about 2-3 a year turtle braces, but he feels that inside of his working boot is a lot more stable. So when he works on a construction site, he feels more secure having his ankle really well stabilized. So again, you can use it. It's been used, great results. Longevity is not there compared to an AFO. That's a simple little thing. For risk, longevity is there forever. There's no such thing as ever, but for a very long time, so don't worry. And yeah, that's about it. Like I said, we have other sizes. We have body jacket. We have the elbows. You can see we're coming up with a chart for the knee also. So, and we still continue to progress. We have auto sticking gel for padding that's coming out also. You're gonna love it because that gel, when it's not sticking anymore, you just wash it under cold water, it just becomes sticky again. So another good approach on that.
So the product, I think it is a good product it's a good product because as much as we are in the century of mobilization, I totally agree with that. The police, love and peace. But at the same time, I want a product that can help to immobilize with a limited time, whether is it 6 hours, or maybe 2 hours just before you go and see, go and get X-ray done, or just want to immobilize patient just for 24 hours or 48 hours, just 2 days or so. That's where this product it's play that role, and it's you can use it, sterilize it, and you can use it on another product. So I think that's how this product will help a lot of physios to actually help patients immobilize them for a little while, and then we start our mobility again. Thank you.
Thanks, Karen. There's two things. First of all, I love the fact that you're talking about stabilization for a few hours when we're evaluating the situation of the patient. If we need to have a longer immobilization or just a short one, it's enough. If you have a case that, let's say we're trauma, and let's say we have a football player on the side, on the field, just sprained his ankle, you can stabilize him the way you find a patient on the field, bring him to the hospital, takes X-ray through the brace, because the brace is X-ray translucent. So you don't even have to remove the brace, you can take it through. And because you stabilize your patient, this could be a lot more comfortable for them to be mobilized in the hospital or to the ambulance or anywhere you want to bring him. If we do have either a good sprain or a fracture, well, two things. First of all, if you have a good sprain, probably going to have swelling involved. You can just unzip it. The fact that the shape is there, even though the zip will open up to let this part of the swelling coming out, you won't have any problem with clotting because you still have some space, but you have the immobilization done in the same time. But that means when you get in the hospital and we do have a confirmation of a fracture or a good sprain, you can remold the brace directly into the patient and have the patient immobilized with not having to use different pieces all along is rehab. I'm sports medicine, so I totally agree with you. Mobilization is a big thing. I'm one of the ones bringing forward the fact that we probably be able to do mobilization, even passive mobilization of the patient faster than what we have regularly with immobilization. So let's say we have a wrist fracture. We know that the callus of the bone, if you take a good X-ray about 1 or 2 weeks after post-fracture, we know the callus is already there. So if you have a good stabilization, you can easily remove the brace without moving the wrist, and you can do passive movement of the wrist without even putting any strain on the callus, and rapidly gain back mobility and save other problems that we face, like dystrophia or things like that we have with a lot of cases post casting. So that's another big thing. Also, if you're working with people who are more off centers, that are more deeper and more rural part of your neighborhood, if you have the monsoon and nobody can go there, here we have snowstorms, you can basically call them up or call the clinic up there and say, look, okay, we have this case, and this case. We're pretty confident we can remove the brace at this point and it should be okay. So again, we're facing that issue of removing a cast being a lot faster, much more easier. And one last thing, because I had this case once, she was diabetic and she felt that she was kind of a dripping feeling on the side of her fibula. So when you have that, first thing you do is go ASAP to to the ER, and we're going to remove the cast and check it out. So if there's nothing, basically we mobilize out of the team to just remove a cast for nothing. And when it's healing, you have this neurological feeling that it has this gripping effect. Even for normal people, they have it. So just because you can unzip it, look it up, if everything is fine, you can have the patient come in maybe the next day for a control, but you don't have to rush him anymore. So that's one other thing. So if you're doing those kind of trauma, that's a big thing. It's easier to work with. And again, with Karen, I do follow her, agreeing with her, sorry, that the more we mobilize, even if we need demobilization, mobilization or stretching, it's a good part of what we're going to gain for our patients. So that's another big thing on that. So yeah, thank you, Karen. Any other questions? No? One last thing, because Karen left, talked about that. We, when we passed tests with Health Canada, because of the fabric we have on both sides of the plastic, and because we have holes in between, we couldn't prove out of 100% that the holes were totally clean. So we cannot recommend that the brace can be passed to another patient. But that being said, we are the maker, and we have to follow protocols and rules. That's what we do. If you feel confident that you sanitize the brace properly and you feel totally comfortable with that, I cannot stop you. That's the point. But as a maker, because of what we have as rules, we cannot say that that the brace, we didn't prove that the brace was totally clean through and through between the holes the way it's designed. Just for you to know. But Karen, I know some places they use it. Patient comes in for an hour, we test the brace on the patient, make sure it's a good thing for them, and then they say, yeah, it's good, okay, right? So they reuse the brace for another patient as a trial out. So yes, it can be done, but we cannot recommend it if you can read between the lines. All right, any other questions? Well, if there's anything else, I know some latecomers came in late, so if you want to stay, just let me know, and I'll be the last one to leave. But all the other ones, if you have something else to say or any comments, please feel free to get some, play with it, have fun. Rafiza is there. I'm always there also for any questions. You can send me an email through info@Turtlebrace. I'm accustomed to go to different time zones, so we can most probably redo another presentation, maybe an earlier hour for you guys. And yeah, it'd be my pleasure to do that. And any comments, any ideas, have fun. Like I said, be the architect of your own protocol. Play with it, have fun. What you wanted to do, I'm sure Turtlebrace can do it. If it can, send me a note. We'll see how we can make it better. So on that note, thank you very much. Have a good evening. Have a good dinner if you didn't want, for you who haven't eaten, and a good night for those who are going to bed. Bye for now.